I think the more you just kind of put yourself out there, put your ideas out there. I mean, not everything that I've done has been super successful, but the things that have, I would have had no idea unless I had just tried.
Hey there, I'm Goli Kalkaran, and this is Lessons from a Quitter, where we believe that it's never too late to start over. No matter how much time or money you've spent getting to where you are, if ultimately you are not happy, then it's time to get out. If you're feeling stuck and you feel like there's gotta be more, there's gotta be a way to feel fulfilled and excited about what you do, then this is the podcast for you. Each week, I will sit down with an inspiring guest who quit their professional career in order to forge their own path and create a life that they love. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode. I am so happy to have you here, and we are in the beginning of July. Isn't that crazy? Half of 2019 is over. And if your first half didn't look like what you wanted it to look like, if you wish you had gotten more done, if you had worked towards your goals more, join us on our challenge. We just started the July challenge, and it's not too late to join. I talked about it last week. Joyful July will be doing all things that give us joy so that we can really live in our happiness now, not when we get to a certain destination. So if you want to join and kind of keep up with what's happening in the coming challenges, you can still sign up at quitterclub.com/July. I am really excited about this next half of the year. I have a lot of exciting things planned for the podcast and for this little community that's growing that I'm loving so much. And I will talk about a lot of that stuff in the coming weeks. One thing that I am so excited to finally share is that we are doing our first live event, August 15th in Irvine, California. I want you all there. I know a lot of you don't live in California, but if you do, if you're in Southern California, come out, join the community, find like-minded people. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have a career coach that is going to lead us through some exercises that will help us in finding our purpose and our why and setting boundaries and all that great stuff. We'll hopefully also have a panel of some of the past guests that I'll announce as we get closer. But the real, I think, value in it is just meeting people that are in the same position that you are and really connecting with a community. I cannot stress this enough, and how much it has helped me on my journey and how much it really does affect the trajectory of what you do. So even if you don't come to this event, find a community of like-minded people. I've said it a lot, like when I started going to meetups, that's what changed my life, and it led me to starting my business and leaving law. And I've seen it actually exponentially affect the things that I do, whether it's the podcast. And it's funny, I was just reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. And one of the things he talks about in order to create an effective habit that will last is putting yourself in a culture or community that values that habit. And that makes sense, right? If you want to lose weight, you should hang out with people that are into health and fitness. Like if you're hanging out with people that are only eating fast food for every meal, you're probably not going to stick to your goals. That, makes a lot of intuitive sense. But when I was thinking about it with respect to our community, I thought about why so many people have so many fears about quitting, because you are surrounded by friends, family, coworkers that have bought into the idea of climbing the corporate ladder and that security is only in these stable jobs, no matter how unhappy you are. And so, of course, when you talk about wanting to quit, you sound insane. They look at you like, are you crazy? But when you put yourself in communities of people that are quitting, that are doing this stuff, that are taking those steps, that have gone on their entrepreneurial journeys and, the sky hasn't fallen, they've done well for themselves, you start realizing this isn't crazy. It is doable. You see how other people do it. You learn from them, and that helps you reach those goals. So I say this to say, spend some time in this next half of the year finding that community that is going to help you. Maybe that's just on Facebook groups. Maybe it's in meetups. Maybe it's conferences, masterminds, coaching. It doesn't matter. Just find people that can help you. And I would love to be that community for you. So you can join our Facebook group, or you can come to this live event, which I'm so excited about. You can find it at quitterclub.com/event and sign up there. It's going to be awesome. Now, with that, let's jump into today's episode with Elle Drouin. Elle is the master of all trades. She literally does so many things, and we are going to get into some of them, like she is a product stylist, a photographer. She hosts the Revenue and Repeat Summit. She created an extremely successful membership site called Styled Stock Society, which is a stylish stock photography membership for women entrepreneurs. She also coaches women on how to create and grow subscription businesses. She is also the person behind the Instagram famous pup, Mochi and the City. You're going to want to look him up on Instagram because he is unbelievably adorable. But the thing that I love about her story is that, like many of us, she started out in a traditional field in the financial industry, and she just took these leaps of faith. When she got offered a marketing director position in New York City, she up and moved to New York for a job that she had never done before. She was in the financial industry. She just decided to try. She taught herself photography and decided to try a membership site. All of this stuff has been just taking that step in fear and seeing where it leads you. And it has led her to amazing success. And I can't wait to get into it. So without further ado, let's jump in and talk to Elle. Hi, Elle. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you, and I can't wait to get into all of the amazing things you're doing. There's so many, but we usually like to start back kind of from the beginning. Let us know what you were doing before you started this entrepreneurial journey.
Sure. So I actually started my career in finance. I was a financial advisor for a Swiss bank. My educational background is in finance as well. And I kind of thought that I would climb the corporate ladder to my corner office, and that would be my entire life.
Yeah. At what point in that climb did you start kind of getting an inkling to try something else?
I actually started my career in 2008. Which was basically the worst time to ever start a career in finance. With the volatility in the market over the first few years of my career, it was really crazy. It was very stressful, and all the things that I think that I was led to believe sort of just from society about, like, you know, having that secure corporate job, I didn't feel like were the case with my corporate job.
Right.
Because, you know, like companies were just disappearing overnight. Like my friends were getting fired left and right. And it was just a really volatile time to really have any job, but especially working in anything related to financial markets. So I found the first few years of my career to be extremely stressful in a way that I don't think I was really prepared for. I don't think anyone can really be prepared for it, but it definitely wasn't what I expected. And I didn't really think that, okay, I want to do something else. I just thought initially that I needed to create some sort of like creative outlet for myself to have something that wasn't just my day-to-day working in finance. So I actually started a blog like a lot of people do. And originally it was just creative outlet. I wanted something that I could do outside of work to kind of channel some of my excess energy into. And that blog eventually led me to a couple different opportunities, one of which was the opportunity to move to New York to take on a role in marketing, actually. So kind of total pivot from what I was doing. At that point, I had been a financial advisor for about 6 years, and I was ready to do something different. And so I just took that opportunity.
That's awesome. So what were you blogging about?
It was a lifestyle blog, which now looking back, it's almost embarrassing. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was a lot of like travel and beauty and just like general lifestyle. And the brand that I actually moved to New York to work for was run by someone that I had known in college. And he had reached out because they had a number of different retail locations for their company, but they had just launched e-commerce. And we're looking for someone who had experience with social media and with blogging to build up their digital presence. And he had been following my blog and was like, I know that you can do this. Originally, I started out just like freelancing a little bit and helping them get some of their marketing things set up. And then they gave me the opportunity to just move to New York to take on their director of marketing position.
That's so amazing. I have so many questions actually, but going back to what you just said, and it's funny, we laugh and you were saying it's kind of embarrassing that you did this lifestyle blog, but what I love and I want to highlight about that is that, a lot of what stops people from doing this, from doing a blog or an Instagram page or whatnot, it's like this, it's like kind of cliche now. All these people are Instagram influencers or lifestyle bloggers, but what I really like to show is like, you just never know what that thing will lead to, So even if it was something that was a side fun hobby or something to just put out there, I mean, that led you to this opportunity that you would have never had otherwise if you were just doing your work as a financial advisor.
Oh, for sure. That's like the story of my life, or at least the last 10 years of it, because every time I've started something like totally unexpectedly, not planning for it to be like anything serious, it's turned into another revenue stream or another business.
That is the entire point. Like that's the entire point of this podcast. Everyone we've talked to has some iteration of this story. And I think a lot of times when you're not doing it or you're looking at other people, you're scrolling through Instagram, it's really easy to sit and think like, oh, they got lucky, or like this person started blogging and started making a lot of money from it or whatever. But it's like, unless you're going to put yourself in that arena, you'll never have that opportunity. So the point of it is like, you just start taking those steps. And it's amazing how many things you can say, like the universe just gives to you or falls in your path. But I think it's more like you're putting yourself out there. So you're looking for those opportunities and you start just finding them.
Exactly.
Okay. So you get this opportunity, but like what you were just saying, when people are losing their jobs and when the financial markets aren't steady, a lot of times like that makes people, I feel like, double down. Like I should be grateful for this job and I can't let this go because like what if, this other thing doesn't work. And once I have a gap in my resume in financial advising, I'll never be able to go back, or whatever other fears we create. What was your thought process when you were going to leave this to start something completely new? Like you hadn't been a marketing director before. And so I have to imagine that there were fears coming up of like, can I do this? What am I doing? Is this crazy? Like what was going on with you when you were making this big jump?
Honestly, I think I hadn't been happy for a while and it just was sort of not wanting to admit that to myself. Mm-hmm. But it's something that I think my husband knew and my friends knew. And I sort of set these like mental goals that like I didn't tell anyone about, but it was sort of like, okay, before I turn 30, I want to like find something else to do. Like I'm ready to leave my career. I honestly had wanted to move to New York, but it wasn't something that I thought that I had a reason to do because I was like, okay, my job is here. Even though they have an office in New York, like, I wanted to make that transition. So I kind of needed a different reason, whether it was starting over somewhere else or doing something completely different. And then my other goal was getting a dog. So I wanted to quit my job, move to New York and get a dog. And I did all three things when I was 28. And I think this is like something that a lot of people, women in particular, I think go through, but like right before they turn 30.
Yeah.
This like moment where you're like, okay, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. What have I spent my 20s doing? What I really want to do in my future? Because maybe those two things aren't aligned right now. And how do I fix that? And it just kind of was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And I decided to take the leap, partially because it just presented itself to me. And I just said yes. I talked it over with my husband and like 30 minutes later, I was like, all right, so we're doing this. And I didn't actually tell my parents that I was quitting my finance job until I had already quit it.
And how did they take that?
They were not super excited about it. Both of them had the same careers in the medical field for like 40 years. Mm-hmm. So the idea that quote unquote stable job to work what was essentially going to be an e-commerce startup in New York, having no real marketing experience other than what I had learned through having a blog, was not something that they understood and maybe probably don't understand still.
Yeah, but I love that you still did that. I think a lot of us deal with that pressure of wanting to please family or not go against what we're supposed to do. And I think it takes a lot of courage to say, I'm still going to try, even though like my family doesn't get it, or sometimes, even spouses don't get it. It seems like your husband was on board, which is awesome. So you make this jump to New York and you are a marketing director. And so how does that go? How long did you do that for? And what was the lead up to wanting to go out on your own?
So I was with that company for about 2 years, during which I was their director of marketing, which was very loosely director because it was pretty much a startup environment. So
Right.
I was essentially the marketing team other than my intern for the majority of that period of time. So I kind of had my hands in every aspect of marketing, anything from social media, blogging, email marketing, paid advertising, you name it, I did it. It was a really great learning experience. I think there's a lot of things that I had been able to apply from having a blog and my own social media channels to the business, but then also having that experience made me interested in online marketing in general and different types of businesses. So I started freelancing, doing a little bit of consulting on the side while I had that job. Around the same time, basically right after I moved to New York, I got a dog. My dog is Mochi. She is Mochi and the City on Instagram. I started
She's famous.
Yeah. So I started her Instagram just like a few months after we brought her home, and she now has over 100,000 followers. So essentially around like a year and a half, 2 years after I had started that job in marketing, she went from having like 15,000 to 30,000 followers within like a 2-month period. And I got a lot of DMs from people on Instagram asking if I could help them grow their own Instagram accounts. And it was like other people with dogs, people with businesses, just like random people that followed her on Instagram. So I started another blog that shared some tips for growing your Instagram and other social media and digital marketing tips, because that's like what I was doing all the time. And I had enough people reach out that I realized that I could grow a client base and do that full time versus working for someone else. So I did it.
Wow. So did you go out on your own? Would that make it like 2016-ish?
Yes, the beginning of that year. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so when you made that jump, did you already have like a roster of clients? Like, did you have income coming in before you decided to jump? Or was it like, I'm going to jump and figure it out?
I had a little bit. It definitely wasn't like a full-time income, but I essentially gave myself 30 days to replace my income. That's when I told my husband when I quit my job, I was like, look, I'm just going to like quit next week. I don't really know exactly, I don't have a plan, but I'm going to figure it out. Like nothing's going to change. Like, let's just pretend that I have like a normal salary and we're going to go about business as usual and I will make it happen. So I think I sort of just got in the mindset that like, this has to work.
Right.
I'm going to make it work.
That's impressive though. 30 days is not very long to be able to replace your income.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, to be totally honest. I was just like, I didn't really want to wait. I know like there are a lot of people who think like, okay, I have to have a certain amount of money saved or have a certain number of clients in order for me to quit my job. And I didn't want to do that. I'm a little bit impulsive. Like when I get an idea, anything from like, let's move to New York next month, or I'm going to quit my job and do this thing. And I find that like, if I don't just commit to it and just do it, then I can spend a lot of time like thinking like, well, is this a good idea? Should I do it? And almost talk myself out of it.
Yeah.
And I've never regretted doing anything. I've regretted not doing things sooner.
Right. No, I love that. And it's funny because obviously like people's risk tolerance is different and people's situations are different. So I understand that some people like really doing it on the side and building it up. And I think that's a great way. But I agree with you that I've seen a lot of people, and I'm sort of like that too, where if I keep waiting, I'll just find an excuse to be like, okay, well, I'll do it in 6 months, or I'll do it and I'll keep putting it off. And it's like, sometimes you just have to rip that Band-Aid off and go for it.
Exactly.
Hey guys, we'll get back to the interview in 1 second. But seeing that you clearly have great taste in podcasts, I wanted to introduce you to another show that I think you'll love. The Startup Story podcast features courageous founders behind some of the most successful brands as they share their startup story. James McKinney dives deep with each guest about their early beginnings and those first steps that led them to create incredible companies. And you know it has to be a good podcast because he was kind enough to have me on the show. So if you want to hear all about how I started my photo booth company, or maybe how Clint Harp started his company before Chip and Joanna Gaines discovered him. Yeah, I was on the same podcast as Clint Harp from Fixer Upper. How cool is that? Make sure to check out Startup Story on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And now let's jump back into the interview. So you have now an Instagram famous pop that you're managing, and you leave to kind of help other people grow their revenue streams and figure out how to do this online stuff. And then when did you also started Styled Stock Society, which is a membership site? And can you tell us a little bit about what that is and how you came up with the idea and how that whole thing came about for you?
Sure. So for the first 6 months or so of my business, I mainly did consulting and I launched a few online courses. I actually taught a course called Celebra Pet Bootcamp, teaching other people how to make their dogs famous on Instagram, and another Instagram course that was geared more towards business owners. And I realized that people were taking that course and then not implementing the strategies, in part because they didn't feel like they had the images that they could use on Instagram. They're like, well, I'm not a photographer. I can't afford to hire a photographer. I know I need to be posting regularly, but where am I going to find these images? Or I'm going to take them, but they aren't going to be great. And so there was a lot of kind of not negative feedback around that, but that seemed to be a pain point for a lot of my students. And also at the same time, I had sort of realized that while consulting and courses were great and my business was basically profitable from the first month, I wanted to create some sort of recurring revenue stream that would sort of smooth some of the ups and downs in between launches and make it so that I didn't have to worry about, where my clients were coming from. Just some sort of additional income stream that was coming in on a regular basis. So I essentially looked at all of my email opt-ins at the time, and I had about 1,000 people who had downloaded the set of free stock photos that I had taken. And I was not a photographer at the time. I was very much I had been working in marketing. I had learned to take photos because I worked in essentially a startup environment where we didn't have a full-time photographer. And I had been taking photos of my dog for her Instagram, but I was not a photographer at all when I started the Styled Stock Society. I literally pitched these 1,000 people who downloaded my free photos the idea of a stock photography subscription where I would give them new sets of stock photos every single month for a fee, and said, I'm not a photographer, but I'd love to do this for you. Is this something that you'd be interested in? And I ended up having about 150 people sign up within the first month. So that was June 2016. And so the Stock Society is 3 years old now.
My God, that's incredible. I mean, this just goes back to the same thing. I know you were saying it in the beginning that each thing just leads you to another revenue stream. But again, I mean, I just love the fact that you try something and for instance, there's tons of people that are making their whole living on courses, right? And I feel like you could have started this and done that course and just kept trying to make that course work, right? And keep saying okay, well, online courses is the way to go. But it takes a lot to step back and kind of look at where are their pain points? What else can I offer? And again, I think a lot of people in your position would have seen this problem, but been just stopped at, well, I'm not a photographer or I can't make, stock photos. So to pitch it to people when you don't take stock photos or you haven't been a photographer and say, I'm going to create a business out of it, takes a lot of courage and a lot of ingenuity and just incredible.
It's funny because I don't think of myself as a very courageous person. I mean, I'm terrified of heights and not very adventurous. But for some reason in business, it seems that I don't have some of that fear. It's not even that I don't have it. It's that I just do things despite the fear.
And do you think that it gets easier too with each one? Once you've taken some risks and then you see another, opportunity, it doesn't take as much to get over that fear. It's just well, let's try it and see what happens.
Yeah, I think it does. I think the more you just kind of put yourself out there, put your ideas out there. I mean, not everything that I've done has been super successful, but the things that have, I would have had no idea unless I had just tried.
Right, exactly. I mean, again, going back, I love that you said that you started out with this course. And I think that's the entire point, right? You try things and some of them are going to fail. And from those, you learn and you either pivot or you make it better or you try something else. And, that's what leads to success. If you sat and tried to read about it until you figured out the perfect product, or like tried to just discover it, it would never happen.
No, definitely not.
Okay. So now you have Style Stock Society. Would you say that's like the bulk of your business?
It is. So after running the Style Stock Society for about a year, I actually stopped consulting, stopped the online courses, and basically focused on photography and styling as like my core offering. And so I pretty much did that and nothing else for like a year or so. And then last year, I actually kind of my next pivot, which came from the Style Stock Society. I had been running it for about 2.5 years, and I had more and more people reach out to me, asking me questions about starting a membership or starting a stock photography subscription. And so I started by creating like a 12-week free boot camp called Revenue on Repeat, which was just like a 12-week free course, essentially. I mean, I just went live like twice a week for 12 weeks, sharing tips on creating, launching, and growing a membership. And that has sort of evolved into a separate business where I mentor other women to create their own memberships.
That's so incredible. And you were saying, I think you now run, like you host a summit for that, right?
Yeah. So we just wrapped up the Revenue on Repeat Summit where we had 15 other speakers speak to their experiences running profitable memberships and subscriptions.
That's so awesome. And when you were starting yours, I mean, how did you learn how to run a membership? Did you like just use online, like other people's courses, or did you just figure it out on your own?
Trial and error. It's just a lot of trial and error. I haven't ever taken a course. I have never hired a coach.
Wow.
It's just all been through experience and Google.
Google is the best university. I love that. So what is kind of on the horizon for you now? Are you more focusing on growing, like teaching people how to do these membership sites, or are you looking to grow Style Stock Society more? What's your focus?
So Style Stock Society is still the focus. Style Stock Society is probably 75% of it. Within 25% is like mentoring and helping other women start their own subscription businesses. But for the most part, Style Stock Society is my baby right now. We're in a period of growth in terms of growing the team, growing the library, growing our membership. So it's been really exciting just to have more people come on board and make it really more of a team effort this year.
Oh, that's wonderful. How big is your team now?
I have 3 contributing photographers and a designer who all create content for the library on a regular basis.
Nice.
In addition to myself. And then we have like the rest of the support team and membership concierge and things like that. But in the beginning, it was literally just me taking all the photos, styling all the photos, editing all the photos. So it's been a really great to expand the content team. So I'm not spending all my time creating.
And how did you learn photography? I mean, you were saying you weren't a photographer and now you're doing this stuff. So is that also Google University, or like how did you end up picking up those skills?
Yeah. So a lot of practice. I was just shoot photos like every single day in the beginning. I took thousands and thousands and thousands of photos of my dog and probably more YouTube than Google, just because, like watching tutorials was really helpful. But yeah, again, never took like a photography class or anything like that. I just learned through some trial and error and then watching YouTube videos.
That's so amazing. And can you tell us a little bit about like Stock Society is for? Like if people are listening and they want to know if it's a right fit for them to join this membership, like typically what kind of people join the membership?
They are feminine stock photos. So it's basically created by women entrepreneurs for women entrepreneurs. There are a variety of different types of images within the library. So anything from like style desktops, lifestyle images, seasonal images, mock-up style images. We have lots of different themes, anything from health and fitness to like social media and business images to like food and like spirituality, and kind of just always expanding the different themes that we have in the library, but they are all sort of like generally feminine images. And most of our members are anywhere from like 0 to 3 years in their business. So maybe you don't have the budget for a full-time photographer, or even, maybe you'll do like one brand shoot a year, but you still need so many other images for your social media and your blog posts and your courses and whatever else that you're creating. So it's just a really great and affordable way to get access to thousands of images for a low membership fee.
And how much is that membership, if you don't mind sharing?
Sure. So it is anywhere from $75 a quarter to $250 a year. And then we also have a lifetime membership, which is $495.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay. And where can people find it? And where can they find you if they want to follow along on all of your adventures?
Sure. So I am Elle Drouin. Anywhere on social media, my website is elledrouin.com, and Styled Stock Society is styledstocksociety.com.
Wonderful. Elle, this has been so wonderful. I know it's going to inspire a lot of people. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me.
How amazing is Elle? Here are my 3 takeaways. 1, you never know what one step will lead to, but you have to take that step. Throughout her journey, Elle just put herself out there, whether it was the initial lifestyle blog, changing careers, or jumping on a pain point. And sure, there will be failures, but you will never get the wins unless you start. 2, it's okay to pivot. We think that if we make a decision, then that's it for the rest of our lives. I see so many people that don't start just because they're scared to make a mistake. Guess what? There is no wrong decision. Just start, and you can always pivot as you learn. And 3, everything you need to learn is at your fingertips, whether that's starting a blog, learning a skill, figuring out how to pay off debt. It's all online. If you're saying that you can't start something because you don't know how, you're just making an excuse. I hope that helps, and I will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening. I can't tell you how much it means to me. If you liked the podcast, please rate and review us on iTunes. It'll help other people find the show. If you want to connect or reach out, follow along on Instagram and Facebook at Lessons from a Quitter, and on Twitter at Quitter Podcast. I would love to hear from you guys, and I'll see you on the next episode.